Welcome back, and it's my great pleasure now to reintroduce a good friend of ITIC, an esteemed colleague, Professor Dimitrios Buhalis. The floor is yours.
Hi, Rajan. Fantastic to contribute, and congratulations to all the colleagues who have been doing such a great job so far. It's fantastic to be able to contribute to this event. I think this panel is really about digital transformation, and if anything, in the last year, we've seen digitization progressing 5 to 10 years because a lot of people had to learn how to operate in this kind of difficult environment and engage in all kinds of activities professionally and personally using technology. So this is something that COVID is going to leave behind, and it's going to create opportunities and challenges for people to engage with different kinds of stakeholders and engage in different functions. We've got a fantastic panel of people. We've got Mark Abraham, who is the founder of Shackle, bringing data and revenue back to hotels. We've got Priyanka Kapoor, who is the Group Director of Sales, Marketing, Branding and Communications for Swiss-Belhotel International. And we've got my good friend, Dr. Sanjay Nadkarni, Director of Research from the Emirates Academy of Hospitality Management in Dubai. Welcome, guys. Lovely to see you. And it's a great opportunity to explore some of the things. We've run a little bit late because a lot of conversation is happening. And I think we should really get on with things. And the first one is we really need to see how technology can help us restart the tourism industry at this particular moment when people are gradually coming back to our facilities and start traveling. So Priyanka, would you like to start ladies first, and would you like to start with some of the initiatives that you are taking in terms of using technology to entice travelers back to your facilities?
Sure. Thank you so much, Professor Dimitri. It is an honor, actually, to be on the panel with you and with my other panelists as well. Hello, everyone, also, who have been joining from many, many parts of the world. It has been a great time over ATM. Coming to technology in tourism and what I can bring to the table from a hotel point of view. We are a mid-sized chain who have about 150 hotels and projects in 21 countries. Keeping that in mind, and the target audience we are serving is pretty much mid-scale. When I look at my background, which is really revenue, sales and marketing oriented, what I see, and if I could just take a few seconds to go back to how dependent we were on technology beforehand, especially for revenue generation. A system giving me an ADR, what needs to be out there, a system telling me overbooking, open this room, open that room type. Everything was pretty much technology. But March, April last year, everything just collapsed. We were back to manual ways of working, completely depending on what we knew, and changing so many things so fast. So going back from that manual way of working, and let me say we are still not back on technology because of the fact that there are regulations which are changing pretty much on a monthly basis with multiple waves coming in different regions that I exist in with the hotels. The only thing that comes to focus is the fact that tourism is really a people's business. And to understand the people, and this is not something that is new, I think pretty much all the panelists have been talking about this. Yes. When we talk of people, it's for me, people are not just the customers. They are also the owners, the staff. And when I say customers, it's not just the consumer, the guest that is staying in our properties, but also my trade partners whom I'm dealing with to sell to those end customers. And when we talk of all these people, the only technology that I see with the immediate future for tourism is customer relationship management. And that is something that can develop not just from end consumer point of view, but from a staff, from my trade partners point of view. So it's key. The technology that I would think is key for an immediate tourism development going forward is to understand the customer better, to be able to serve them better.
Thank you. Back to basics, of course, and it's developing all of those things to go forward. But I love the way that you say, technology could not help us at the time of crisis, because actually what has happened is that the technology thought that it was business as usual. So, and all your yield management, your revenue management systems will try to push you back to a normality without understanding the facts of what's happening at the back. And actually, this is very interesting. And what Alicia, who is coordinating us, she hasn't told you, is that her PhD is exactly about that. It's how can you create resilience in the system to actually take advantage of real-time information. And thank you for bringing that dimension, Priyanka. I don't think the technology is going away, but I think the technology we had gaps in terms of understanding the severity of the situation and to engage in all these things. And I think you're absolutely right to bring trust and relationship back to the main kind of business functions and what we do in order to bring our customers back. Let me go to Mark and see how his systems have actually accounted for all these exogenous variables and all these continuous changes that we see with regulations and the patterns of travel. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Dimitrios. I think, listen, we've had a prime example this week. So our engineering team is based in Amsterdam. But because we were built out of COVID, we started, early 2020. We have some team members in Ireland, some in London, some in Lisbon, some in Madrid. And as we were building out our next couple of milestones with our product development, we really wanted a whiteboard, we wanted sticky notes, and we didn't want Zoom, because collaborating and brainstorming over Zoom has been a nightmare over the last couple of months for us. But when we were trying to fly the various team members in, there's so many various different regulations across Europe. Is it a COVID test within 24 hours, 72 hours, and then it's an antigen test on top of that to get into Amsterdam? Some of us can fly back to London, but you have to quarantine for 5 days, or have to go back to Lisbon. So unfortunately, technology can't fix that. That's governments. And until there's some consistency around where you have to quarantine, how long, and the tests and the costs, it was absolutely astronomical, the costs for these tests. So I think first and foremost, none of us can fix that until governments become aligned. And I don't think travel, especially in Europe, will recover until people feel comfortable, both from understanding what the regulations are clearly, and then also the cost element. We had a couple of team members who were slightly nervous about flying because of the scaremongering that you see from the media and the governments. And, after they went through it, and it was obviously a very pleasant experience, they had the whole airport seats to themselves. They had on the plane, they had 3 seats either side. It was quite comfortable. But really, I think that's first and foremost. The way we think about technology, and I'm a hotelier by trade, so I studied hotel management and worked operationally in hotels around the world, from housekeeping to the front desk to the night shift. So I've done it all. But Shackle really thinks about technology from the guest's perspective. We are a B2B2C business, so we obviously, our hotels are our clients, but our users are guests. So we see ourselves as an Instagram or a WhatsApp or a Gmail, or we put ourselves in that bracket. So what is the user experience? What I think hoteliers can sometimes do incorrectly is not actually view the guest journey from the guest perspective, and they think about hotel tech being, hotel platforms. But what a hotel guest thinks about when they're using a product is they're comparing the hotel's product to Instagram, to WhatsApp. They're not, using a hotel app, for example, and saying, oh, the UI isn't great or the user experience isn't great, but it's fine because they're hoteliers and they don't build tech. They're saying this isn't the same as Instagram. I'm not using that. So we focus completely on the user experience from the guest's perspective. And really what we're trying to do is automate what guests feel is admin. And I think this is the issue when you're either booking, obviously, direct, or unfortunately, most of them through the online travel agencies, is when you arrive at the hotels don't even know who you are. You might have the last name, the initial of the first name, because obviously we know Booking.com and the other OTAs block most of the data for the hotel to see. So the guest feels like they're coming to a front desk and they're repeating this information. They're queuing up, they're waiting 5, 10, 15 minutes, usually for opera to buffer up and start working. But the guest has to wait there to queue there. One of our hotels in Dubai, Rix's Premium JBR, because they have 414 rooms and they have to keep a 2 to 3 meter gap, they can have a zigzag of a queue all across the lobby because they have to have the distance for regulation, and people have to queue up and check in manually. So really what we're trying to do from a hotel app perspective is to automate the guest journey from their own phone. We're all kind of quasi cyborgs right now. I'm pretty sure all of us on this panel could reach to our left or right and pick up our mobile phone. So we see the mobile phone as part of the human body now, and we think we can automate lots of the admin. And we don't need to overemphasize technology where some properties are putting in, you can open up your blinds or curtains with tech. I think that's over engineering some things. I think what we're trying to do is take out the admin of the guest journey. Can they check in online? Can they pre-authorize their payment? Can they get a digital key? Can they order room service like they do with Deliveroo and Uber Eats? Really just condense all the admin and automate it from the guest phone. We don't really think a front desk should exist. We think those jobs can be put into more revenue generating roles. It's a lot different if you're going to the one and only on the Palm and you're getting a nice glass of champagne as you check in. But unfortunately, not every hotel can offer a glass of champagne when you check in. We don't believe that actually enhances the guest experience. We think it takes away from it when you're asking them to queue up for 10, 15 minutes. So that's how we see technology, but always from the guest perspective. That's how we see it.
So it's fantastic. Thank you, Mark. So it's really about streamlining the whole experience and make sure that everything is operating in a way that is it's welcoming and it's bringing customers in. Let me bring Sanjay in because I know that he's been doing a lot of research in this for many, many years in different kind of environments. Sanjay, what have you seen in the last year? How has anything from what Priyanka or Mark been adopted? And I know that in Dubai there's a very high tech kind of environment. Do you see these things come forward to your experience?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pre-COVID, it was high tech, high touch in the hospitality industry, and now we're moving into high tech, no touch. So obviously, technology has had to keep pace, and the issues that Priyanka identified pretty much take us back to the legacy platforms that were created not just pre-COVID but a few decades back that are not able to cope with modern day requirements. So today we live in in an age of data abundance. In the past, we lived in an age of data deficit. So what's happening now is the industry as a whole needs to switch gears to adopting Industry 4.0 solutions, AI, IoT. It's not just about harnessing the data, but then what you do with those data to get real-time analytics. Obviously, there are regulatory issues like GDPR that come in the way. Technologies exist. It's not like the technologies are not there, but whenever it comes to personally identifiable information that can facilitate a lot of these processes, typically the regulatory environment is a bit of a gray area. So this is something which the industry has to cope with. What I've noticed, however, is there is some level of willingness now on part of the hoteliers to listen to alternative solutions that go beyond the brand standards, right? For instance, there's a great deal of activity in the startup ecosystem. They've come up with some real cool solutions. Now, for big chains to adopt those solutions, it's a huge, humongous bureaucratic process. Now, this needs to be streamlined. So there is some kind of an inbuilt incubator within hotel corporations. This will certainly facilitate the uptake of these technologies. It can be a sandbox environment within which they test and then scale up after doing all the due diligence with data security issues and the rest of it. But on that note, I must say that Dubai, UAE in general, has put in a great deal of effort in trying to nurture this ecosystem, bringing in startups, having a great sort of support for the accelerators, and in turn putting them in touch with the corporate entities, not just in hospitality, but across the board.
Thank you, Sanjay. I know that you need to go very soon, and I know that we're running out of time, but if I was to do my magic and get COVID to disappear and kind of start looking towards 2030, Sanjay, what do you think that the technology, how technology is going to transform the experience of customers? If you close your eyes and think 2030, how do you see the tourism and hospitality happening because of technology?
I'm a bit afraid to answer that question. 10 years back, if we were having this conversation and you'd asked me what would happen in 2020, I would have been proved dead wrong. But okay, on a more serious note, obviously one of the key issues facing our industry is the carbon footprint, sustainability. And I feel there is a great deal of momentum now that is being generated to kind of use technology to mitigate. We are working on some projects here, deploying IoT solutions to reduce, for instance, water consumption, not just electricity. Yeah. So these are small incremental steps. What they will lead to towards 2030, for that we need a crystal ball. I mean, it's difficult to say what will happen next month, let alone 1 decade down the line. But no, obviously this is something which is pretty fascinating. As technology evolves, I just try to follow the Gartner hype cycle to see, to get some leads, if you will, on where the beacons are. But it's anyone's call where things would end up. But I do feel that it's a great opportunity for this industry to kind of leapfrog into the Industry 4.0 era.
Thank you very much, Sanjay. I know that you need to rush in 3 minutes, so when you do, please leave quietly at the background. Lovely to see you. Hopefully to see you soon.
Thanks and goodbye right now.
Okay. Mark, again, back in the 2030, most of the applications that they work currently, actually, they don't work for me. In the pre-COVID era, we do about 150 to 200 nights in hotels. And in every single hotel, I had to get yet another application, learn myself how to go around it and do what I need to do. So the customer experience, it could have been good on your product, but by the time I was going to another hotel 3 days later, I had to find yet another application, download, and all the rest of it. But seeing forward for 2030, how do you see these things going forward?
Yeah, well, that's quite a nice sentence, because it's kind of the problem we're trying to fix to an extent. Shackle is trying to be Uber for hotels, where it's one app for global distribution. So the user has one app where they can book and check into their hotels in London, New York, LA, Dubai, wherever they go. So the hotels are subscribing to our software. It's Shackle on the App Store. And then the guest has one app for multiple hotels, rather than every time they go to a new city, they have to keep downloading it. So our target market is not the Hilton, it's not the Marriott, it's the smaller chains, mid-size and below, and independent hotels. We want to bring world-leading tech to the independent hotels who couldn't afford it themselves. We're going to spend millions on the best hotel app, and then we'll allow the independent and small chains to subscribe on a monthly fee that's incredibly cost effective for them. So that's our model. And then for the user, they then have one interface for their entire travel journey. So that's our business model. I think if you were to look forward, well, it's impossible in tech, right? Because if you just rewind 10 years ago, we didn't have the iPad, we didn't have the Apple Watch, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Uber, we didn't have Airbnb. So I think tech moves that fast that it's, I think it's unwise to try and predict. What I do think you should do is say, what are the issues that we have today that if we had in 10 years' time, still it would be a massive failure? If you're looking at that from the hotel's perspective, if you're still relying on OTAs to deliver you above 50% of your occupancy every night, you've been lazy as a hotelier. Our goal long-term is to redistribute the data and commission that Booking.com and Expedia take and give it back to the hotels. So we want to partner with hotels where we're saying, allow us to send you guests, but we'll take a 3% fee because we have an underlying cost to the channel managers. And we'll give you all the data in a beautiful dashboard broken down into analytics between your midweek guests to your weekend guests. But that means working together with them as partners. It's kind of subtly why we've wanted a HQ in Amsterdam, so we can see booking.com every day and tell them we're coming. And we really believe that's the thing that hoteliers, in our opinion, should focus on. In 10 years, if you're still reliant on OTAs, I don't think you've done a good job.
Mark, I wish I had all the time to actually have a decent conversation with you about how deep is your pocket and how much do you advertise and how can you do customer acquisition and a whole range of other things. But I think we need to get on another forum, or we need to spend some time bringing something nice together. Okay.
Yeah, a nice Irish whiskey.
Yeah, exactly. Let me go to Priyanka, because he's a hotelier, and actually based on the analysis that you see, Priyanka, and your 150 properties around the world, that everybody, a GM, is knocking on your door every day and say, fill up my hotel and make sure that all my guests and all my staff is happy and safe. How do you see that us going to 2030?
So going to 2030, one key thing that you mentioned before going to this question was that you used your magic wand and said COVID will disappear, right? Which
I
means...
hope so. I keep doing it all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm considering it's worked, yes. Having said that, 2030, even though we say COVID will disappear, we can't really ignore the fact that it was here and what it has taught us. And going forward to 2030, the key learning that I would take from here and go forward and help my hotel still be economically stable is really, really talking into sustainability, something that Dr. Sanjay touched upon. We have already started initiatives which are led by our technical services department, and of course, supported by my department, which is marketing mainly, to see what are the ways of bringing about these developments, which will help us save on expenses, so become economically viable, yes. And in the long term, of course, the owners also understand that. But they will also talk into the fact that the guest is now very, very aware of the sustainability factor. So looking from both aspects, from my owner's net profit and from my guest perspective, I think this is really key. It might not look as big as it is because it's still in the starting stages, right? But going 2030, I think this is something which is going to be the basis for development further. I mean, if you look at the goals which were set in 2015, right, where environment is pretty much the basis, that is something that we have to consider, and that is going to talk at an emotional level with my audience as well when it's put into place, as well as economically make it special.
Thank you very much for that, because you've just made yourself partner to two of my new projects that they're about to start. And I very much like to talk to you offline and then to your 150 GMs, because there are two things that we are starting now with different partners in different places that they are actually addressing that. And we'll need your help with that. And I think the most important element to that is to collect all the information globally and disseminate globally. I'm an old guy to remember 92 when Intercontinental Hotels started the first environmental manual and how the reduce, reuse, recycle was distributed to all the guys, all the industry. At that time, I was associated with Intercontinental back in very early 90s, and that was one of the main things. Thank you very much. As far as digitization is concerned, I think we bring everything together, and I think we are talking about smart hospitality. And smart hospitality will kind of streamline the whole process. And the streamlining will take the customer with us in all this journey, if you like, where we are going to create experiences and at the same time focus on focus on the communities that we are basing those experiences, the sustainability of the communities, the competitiveness of the hospitality industry, and the profitability of the hospitality industry. And it's about getting all of those things work together. That will get us to be competitive and to go forward. I've promised to Alicia and to Ibrahim to finish by 5 minutes after 12 my time.
Can I just add to that? Because it was very interesting to read what you had said about smart tourism destinations, actually, online as well. And something that you mentioned, which really took me by surprise earlier on a session today, which was about ecosystems, where you said every department needs to talk into each other. And that is only possible if we go smart. So
absolutely.
Yes, very, very interested in that. Thank you.
Also within our destinations, there's no point of the hotel being sustainable if the supplier is not sustainable. Absolutely. So we need to go all the way the value chain backwards and forwards. And we need to get, some of the things that we're looking at is how we can get what we call nagging on the consumers. So we are telling the consumers, how can you be more sustainable so we can go all the way backwards and forwards? And that's a project that we're designing now, Priyanka, and we'll come back to you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your insights and your contribution, and look forward to do great things with you and return back the controls to our colleagues with the congratulations for organizing all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay safe, everybody. Be good.
Take care.
Thank you, Dimitrios. Thank you, panel. Absolutely fascinating. The pace of digital transformation.